actually the journey probably started a little bit before this. Some of us at our school and within our context have had a long-standing commitment to social justice. In fact, I don't think there's a teacher out there who probably hasn't got that commitment. But in terms of a specifically anti-racist commitment, that only sort of kind of got brought to our collective imaginations in May of 2020 with the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that kind of resonated with a lot of us, that actually being sort of a passive anti-racist just wasn't appropriate any longer within our context and our setting, and that we had to be part of the solution. And so in sort of autumn of 2020, I did a little bit of searching amongst the different faculties within our school, Royal High School, and a little bit of sort of touching base on where people felt that we were in terms of our knowledge and our skills with being anti-racist teachers. And I've got a couple of the feedback and kind of buzzwords that kind of came back from that. And I hope you kind of get the sense that actually there wasn't a great deal in terms of knowledge and skills, and that was okay. So I actually was very, very open with the staff and said, look, you don't know what you don't know, and it's actually all right to say I don't know. And then that gives us a really strong basis of where we're going to go next in terms of our professional learning. So we asked questions like about sort of knowledge of anti-racism. Some people said they were confident to teach themes kind of factually, but they don't know how to do it in an ostensibly white school, where they don't know the language, they don't know what's appropriate within sort of the 2020 and beyond that context. So it was to reassure staff, first of all, that actually that's okay, but that gave us a really good baseline information to work with. And then it kind of got us really thinking that actually, as Kate already mentioned, there wasn't a point in kind of doing a rapid reaction to what had happened and putting in sort of different policies and procedures without allowing staff to really spend some time questioning their own implicit biases, which we all have, and allowing staff to actually acknowledge those and that they were okay, and then be able to equip them effectively so that they could challenge them too. Kate, could you pass on to the next slide? Thank you so much. So one of the things that we did in conjunction with RIS, Rihanna and Titi in particular, spent a lot of time thinking about what do staff actually need to know, and we stripped it right back. Fortunately, I have a background in history teaching, so we actually kind of looked at things like, where does racism in the sort of modern context within Britain, where do those biases and attitudes tend to come from? We actually looked at things like colonialism, and we looked at Windrush, so on and so forth. I'm going through that very quickly, I'm just aware of time. So it was a comprehensive knowledge session, really knowledge-based rather than skills-based session about the context for where we were as a Royal High School, but based within our context nationally, and then our context within Britain, British Empire, and all the history that goes with it. And you'll see that some of the comments that we got back from here in service, this was this time last year, was actually, you could see the big difference in how we challenged the thinking of staff members. And it was okay for them to be challenged. We said at the beginning of the in-service, you're probably going to feel uncomfortable here, and it's okay to feel uncomfortable. And I think that one of the comment at the bottom there, that just challenging yourself in the subject of race still isn't enough, it's humbled me a bit in the sense that it's not a short-term fix. Changing the curriculum isn't going to eradicate racism and make our young people feel safer. It's a long-term project. And that's kind of what we were aiming for. And we got, in terms of a staff in-service response where people have to fill in an evaluation form, we got something like 60 responses, and incredibly thoughtful responses where people had actually been quite affected by what we did, but we had also managed to open up a really safe space where people could come and say, you know what, I just don't know, can you help? And that was fine. Next slide, please, Kate. And so one of the things we did again in conjunction with IYS is we started a book group, and I know that, having talked to Payne, that this is a kind of sort of micro version of what Education Scotland are doing with their Building Racial Literacy project. So we chose one book that I had kind of read myself, and I thought this is accessible to staff. And so we went, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. And for a school book group that ran each week, it had 25 members. People kind of dropped in and out, just because of timing and so on. But everyone who participated fed back that they learned a lot, and actually it's challenged a lot of thinking. A lot of people don't necessarily agree with what's in the book, but that helped to kind of prompt the further conversations. And then that's when IYS were able to step in and say, well, actually we can help you unpick why, as white people who may feel challenged, or your white privilege may feel a little bit challenged, you might start to feel a little bit uncomfortable with some of the points that are made in this book and are made that we've been making generally, why you feel like that. And that has been a real eye-opener. Our Equalities Working Group has had 20 members last year, and it's even grown this year. I can't remember off the top of my head how many this year. It's Jen that's in charge of that, and it's probably around 30. And then what we did on the back of the August in-service, because we were still kind of in and out of restrictions, it made things quite difficult. We did an equalities bulletin with different media. One of the big feedbacks from staff was that reading's not for everybody, and I kind of forget that as a big reader. So we looked at kind of putting a bulletin out there. It was just a sort of a mix of different media, so reading, clips, podcasts, so that people could kind of dip in and out of the ideas at their own pace. And that was kind of where we got to around about sort of January of 2022. And I was kind of eager to kind of sort of move things on just a little bit. And actually, again, in conjunction with the team, the decision was keep working at the why until people really truly understand this and then start to live it. Then we're not going to be able to make further progress. And then on the back of that, that's where Kate comes in, because she is overseeing sort of the staff element of creating an anti-racist